because they're going to put 210 new parking spaces.
So when you say, the question is about a park district of 200 lots, I'm sorry, what are you talking about
They're
specifically?
expanding this facility.
Oh, this facility, okay, yes. Okay, they're putting parking spaces at this facility.
No, they're expanding the building, they're looking at putting, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, correctly, a pool and tennis courts and making it a community,
Mhm.
like not just a senior.
So parks, just so everybody knows, is they're just like a developer, right? So they have to go through the process. So they're going back through that development process, there's a site plan. That site plan is going to require some neighborhood involvement. That site plan gets checked to make sure that we have the infrastructure. That's water, sewer, roads, as well as parking requirements that they have to meet. They have to improve, if there's safety issues that exist right now, they're going to add more traffic here. We have the ability, that's our hook, as the city, when a development is going through, is to say, you're going to put more traffic, so you need to fix this intersection. Now there's limits about what we can do. I think some folks see development and say, how come that development couldn't fix that, third and Reed Market? And they might have to pay a proportionate share, but it's not that developer's responsibility to fix something that there's all sorts of reasons that intersection might not be working. So they have to pay their fair share. So let me give you an example towards the end, and we can go kind of keep going. Just keep going to the example towards the end of Stone Creek. So I just want to jump right to this because I think this is relevant based on the questions. And that there was a master plan, so think of the school that's coming. They would go through the school would go through the same process as Stone Creek, where there was a new elementary school, there was some commercial space, multifamily space, a lot of single family homes. The community weighed in. The land use committee weighed in. They wanted more connections. They wanted traffic congestion to be addressed. And so what changed? How that voice mattered is that there was improvements that were made to Reed Market in '97, some ramp improvements that were made. There was financial contribution to 3rd and Reed Market, so we're building a bucket of money to make some fixes to that intersection. Roster House improvements, as well as connecting some trails in the area to make it safer for kids to get to school. So again, not perfect, but what we're trying to do is take these opportunities, take your energy and involvement and where you want your community to go and put it into action. So again, another plug for your land use committee with the neighborhood association. So going back to a little bit out of order, I'm happy to take questions too. I don't, again, want to just talk at you. I want to make sure that you're getting your voice heard. Anything else before I move on?
So do you want to skip past this?
Yeah, so a lot of the handouts in the back kind of summarize what the city's been doing with transportation over the next couple of years. Has a map that shows specific projects that will be constructed that are being programmed. You'll see a lot more activity along Murphy. We're beginning to do some design work on Murphy. That'll be under construction. Empire on the north end is also underway. And then on the maintenance side, we've put a lot of money towards, we took reserves and one-time funds and put it towards street maintenance. The state passed a transportation package this past summer, and that's going to result in some additional ongoing funding for the city. So what you saw in terms of our ability to maintain roads this last summer and the investment that we made, we touched about 10% of our roads. 10% is about 100 lane miles of the 800 lane miles that we have. So about 100 miles were repaved. We want to continue on that for the next couple of years. We've got some very specific goals of improving our road system.
Are you ever going to maybe replant something nice on Reed Market?
Yes, there is a whole re-landscaping plan for Reed Market. Yes.
That's trash. Whatever you paid for it.
It is being redone. Yep. Other questions in the back?
When do you anticipate construction on Murphy to begin?
Construction of Murphy is dependent on funding. So we've allocated $10 million towards that project of that 5-year CIP. That project, the estimate is upwards of $30 million. So part of this effort is, as we look towards updating the transportation system plan, is coming up with some funding ideas. And so in the next couple of years, my hope is in the next 5 years or so, that we can get that project going. But it's good. Design is underway. We're going to try to position it for funding here soon.
So is that going to be, that's going to alleviate a ton off of Reed Market, what you're saying? So it's going to be 4 lane, not just 2?
Those are all questions up for debate.
Sort of, kind of, 2 lane with a turn lane?
We'll study that. We'll definitely study the capacity. Yep. But again, there's cost to it. So there's cost to, it's not just the road. So don't think of, when you think of a project, the expense of it, it's not just the asphalt, it's purchasing land. Land comes at a price, so we have to purchase, most of Murphy, the right-of-way's been acquired, but when we talk about widening roads, there is an expense of paying for that land as well. Yes, in the back.
Possibility of the high school and Morgan Middle School ending up on, which, of course, out there is a lot of support that kind of traffic. Is that considered by the school district as well in deciding where to put it? Because it's not only the Murphy overpass, it would also be 9 and 15 would be the roundabout. It's so unsafe now as more and more traffic out there, trying to make turns, left-hand turn from 50 not, or left-hand turn from not on 15 is getting more and more difficult to safely. So, I mean, I've frankly heard about teenagers and the number of cars driving there.
And again, that school is going to be required to go through a master plan, so you'll get a lot of opportunity to weigh in on the impacts that project is going to have, and what you're advocating for is something the school district needs to hear as they're making their plans for that high school.
My question is more like timing. So you said that the school thing is going to go to this master plan, and the Murphy overpass and all that is coming up as well. Are there any effort to coordinate that so that the traffic thing is there before the school opens?
Yes, so again, there's, through the development process, we don't allow development to open doors until they've mitigated their direct impact, right? So now, we can't hold that developer responsible for all the background traffic, so there is existing conditions. They can't make it worse. And so they are required to, whether it's putting in a roundabout or putting in a left turn, right turn lane, whatever, that needs to be done prior to the school opening.
There's not more traffic on the 15, but also the maximum speed is 50 at that point.
Yes.
And in front of my house it's 40, but it's like a racetrack. So I think
The question is the speed on 15th, and we speeding, and the speed limit is way too high. It needs to be lower. And so we put in a request. ODOT is the agency that does they have to study it. Again, the city doesn't have control to be able to change the speed limit signs. That's monitored through the state's transportation system. We have made that request.
okay.
So it should happen.
I can do it.
Yeah. Other questions on transportation? Yes. That's okay. That's fine.
South Carolina, there's houses that have been built in the last 2 years that are 0 line, right on top of each other. And haven't we learned anything from the fires like in California? And we've had so many here too. That why can't we allow everybody's going to lose their house? Why are they letting them do this?
So you're probably talking about setbacks, so houses too close to each other, and the lot coverage and all that is done through the development code. So I mentioned that we have a urban growth boundary plan with how land is going to get used. The next layer I didn't go over in detail is the development code. There's neighborhood associations that are meeting collectively. You're not alone. There's other neighborhoods that have that same concern. And I think there's opportunities to get coordinated, and so that there's a voice that gets back to city council to say, we don't like this policy, we want to see some changes, and make that voice heard. So, but all of that that's part of the growth that Bend is experiencing of how land is very expensive, and how do you maximize the use of your land.
This is scary though.
I hear you.
It's just, we're all going to go down.
Yes.
What is the timing for the master plan for the schools?
The timing for the master plan for the schools, I believe the high school, they want to open up, I want to say in 2020 or 21, right? So they're most likely going to be submitting a master plan within the next year. So, I mean, it's a good 3-4-year process.
But we need to get involved earlier.
Yes, so as soon as they are required, before they even submit a master plan, they are required to have a neighborhood meeting. So again, we want to encourage involvement early on, before your shovels are in the ground. We want to make sure that the neighborhood has. There's notice that's required to be given to the neighborhood association. So again, you've got a pretty active land use committee, and they will disseminate information through their general membership. So
When we find out, we will pass it on to you in a digest email. So make sure we have your email address if you want that kind of information.
So it sounds like the land swap is a definite, from what I'm
So we don't have, the school owns their own property, we're not involved in that, so that's their decision as a district.
There's land with the city.
Nope, there's no city land involved.
So
It's
land
the
of
ward,
Country Club
the
Road,
wards,
other-
the wards. The wards?
They own both pieces.
Yes. So the school district currently owns the property that's on Country Club Road.
Okay.
They own that right now, it's, I think, 40 acres or so. The land that's on Knott and 15th, that's owned by J.L. Ward Company.
So we have no say in that part.
It's between the school district and the wards, yeah. So yes, the land there's a new park that's being developed where Murphy Road is going through.
Can you go back on that?
Yeah, if you don't mind, go back to
So
the
really
map.
some of it a swap with Park and Rec to give up some of that park?
No, the park is going to be, so it's, what the conceptual plans that I've seen, the park is up here and then the school's right here.
Okay, so the park would still be the 36.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Thank you.
yes. All right, so I'm going to wrap up and just talk about neighborhood associations. And this is just a